You didn't believe anything that I said. When they came, you were not prepared. Then it all fell right on your head. And now you're lying in your bed. You've got yourself in a rabbit hole. You're trapped 'cause you did not let go. You took that bait and now
Hey guys, it's Carrie with Alice Eats the Apple. Tonight's show is a continuation of a Joyride show that we did last September with our friend Cole, who happens to be a physicist and an inventor. So when we last spoke with Cole, he had been working on something pretty amazing and out of this world. You can go back, you can check it out on the Joyride show if you want more in-depth details. So I'd like to hit a few highlights to sort of bring you up to speed for this show. So Cole had his first UFO contact experience when he was only 7 years old. This encounter fueled his curiosity in ways that actually steered his life onto a path of out of this world exploration, literally. So throughout Cole's life, he has had visions that resulted in incredible downloads that have actually led to experiments and inventions with seemingly endless possibilities and potential. And that's where Allison Coe, his creative partner, comes in. Well, hold on, wait. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me back up a bit. So Cole's visions are sort of like small little stepping stones, and they light up one at a time that sort of lead him down this path. So he began to crave like a deeper understanding of what was being asked of him, seeking answers through alternative means like psychics, spiritual world. And on his search, that's where he came across Allison Coe, a QHHT practitioner. One session with her seemed to just unlock the puzzle and kind of the bigger picture. And the two of them together, I mean, things just really light up for both of them spiritually. So one of the many things that fascinates me most about the story is how Cole utilizes both his intellectual practical side with his psychic spiritual side to create what can potentially be tools and mechanisms that can be instrumental in ushering in this incredible new future. Yeah, I know. That sounds a little over the top. But when you hear his stories about his visions, his downloads, astral travel, who he meets out there, these beings, his remote viewing, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And they're all firsthand experiences. Amazing. So, tune in. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments down below. I can't wait to read them. And I hope you like the show. All right, guys. So here he is. Here's the man, Mr. Cole. I got to meet you not too long after the show. So we did the show last September of 2018, kind of mid-September. And then I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks after that, we all met up in Sedona.
That's right. Yeah, that was fun.
That was really cool. I mean, just to have that, just that particular group just all in one spot, that was really fun. But you know what I found really interesting, kind of picking up where we left off with what you were working on before, just the color, the orb, but I don't think we were calling it the orb yet. People were really fascinated by that because Allison Coe, who introduced us, she brought it up in the speech that she gave, and I really zoomed in to you and people's reaction to you and to what you were working on. You kind of had a crowd around you.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm working. I don't know if I should explain it, but it's basically it uses the technology of solar flares, and I wanted to make a rocket engine out of it, and who knows if I still will. But when I had my session with Allison, they came back and they said, "Oh, you're supposed to make this orb thing out of this with this light, and basically people will see that, and it'll sort of connect them with their higher consciousness, and then eventually it'll advance, and it'll be a way to communicate with these beings that are on the other side of the asteroid belt." We can get into that later if you want to, but when you see it, it's pretty crazy. If you want, I could pop it up real quick and show your audience, since I don't have the orb website anymore.
I would love to see it. And so that is what I found really interesting, is that you get these ideas, you get these concepts, downloads, visions, you astral travel, but they're like these puzzles, and you get these pieces And so by hooking up with Allison and doing the QHHT, she was able to lead you to more info and sort of create the bigger picture. But I don't think they're giving you the whole picture, but just sort of what the next step is.
Yeah, yeah. I get steps. I get visions. Sometimes the visions are so advanced, I'm just like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do with that? It's like, that's pretty shocking. So sometimes I paint it, and if I can, then I whip it together, and so here, let's see if it's still downloaded, but this is the thing that I showed people at that time. I didn't have a dome yet. I have that now, but anyway, that's the solar flare technology that I think it's based on these new X-class solar flare type stuff that we're getting, and it's just really strange. I showed it to a physicist who had 50 years of experience in a national lab, and I showed him this really basic part of it, and he said, "That's blowing my mind. I've never seen anything like that."
So going back to that, you were interested in, and you talked about this on the show last time, but you really became interested in the sun and the flares and sort of what was going on with the sun. Now, was that back in the 90s or the 80s?
It was back in the late 90s. I started looking into that. I had already, I mean, throughout my life, I always had these visions, and so earlier I was making like I had went to this crystal city where there was a pyramid, and it was powering. Underneath, there was light that was going into this other pyramid that was underground, and it was powering like this crystal city, like Atlantis or something. And I was like an engineer, and I was in there running it, and so I started building that. And I don't know if I mentioned before, but my lab got destroyed after I was pretty much getting where I wanted to go with it. I still hadn't gotten the results I wanted, but it was looking pretty interesting. And then some helicopters flew over my house, and we were having beers with my friends outside at a barbecue. And they were like, "Cole, they're here to get you." And I was like, "No, they're not. You guys should shut up. It's just, because there's a military base nearby." So I was like, "It's no big deal." But then the next day I came home, and I have like, oscilloscopes and all kinds of power amps on the walls, and they had just come down, magically. And then my experiment was broken, and so it just kind of stopped me.
Let that be a warning to you. How do you
Yeah,
think they knew though?
I mean, from what I've heard, there's a frequency that gets emitted, and when they feel somebody getting having experiments that are releasing it, they come by and they see what they can do to stop it.
Check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be wrong about that, but I don't know.
Well, going back, it's so funny because the last show that we did, there was so much information that really you almost have to watch it twice or three times to get it all. And I know that the flares right now, actually the last few years have just been insane. And a lot of folks have talked about it, about the Schumann resonance and how it do you think it's jump starting us? I mean, I think normally they say it's right around 7. I mean, it's like, can you explain it? You can probably explain it a lot better than I can.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try, but it's not my thing. But from what I understand, the Indians have been kind of like feeling this for years, and it's supposed to be about 13 hertz, okay. And it's been going up and up and up and up lately, and there doesn't seem to be any reason for it except that we're freaking out. So either we're causing it, or something outside of our solar system, or maybe our planet is doing it. Not really sure, but it definitely feels like there's an effect, and it seems to be, recent. Past couple of years, we are feeling this effect of this Schumann resonance, but also the sun's quieting down, and typically that cuts out a lot of cosmic rays. And so it could be, I haven't done any study on cosmic rays in years, but it could be that we're getting a lot more of that, and that's affecting our planet's, sort of peaceness. And then we're feeling that, but it also could be, more of a dual kind of thing. We're impacting it.
Well, I think it sounds like it all comes together, though. That I always understood it as like these waves that hit us, and it kind of wakes us up, and it or at least that may be what's happening, because it does seem like a lot of folks are waking up right now. So if our frequency is starting to elevate, I mean, that's a good thing, but it can also be a really hard thing. So
Yeah, I mean, you have to know what to do with all that energy, you
mhm.
know. And like for myself, I was saying it, you know, it's for a few years I haven't been able to sleep for, you know, tens of years, and it's like worse now. Seems like it's really hard to, unless I get completely wiped out somehow,
Uh-huh.
then I get a few days of sleep.
So then
But yeah, it's like, what do you do with all this energy, you know?
track. But it seems like that it has also led you to this, that the sun and the solar flares and
Yeah,
so
I've been getting visions. You know, I see things. You know, when I meditate and stuff, or when I'm asleep. I don't sleep anymore, so now I have to just, you know, be quiet and meditate. I don't sleep as much anyway. And I've been getting tons and tons of information, visual information, and I've been trying to do like, well, in 2015 I painted 30 paintings, 33 paintings that year, and they're all mostly just my dreams and my visions and stuff. And it just seems like I just had to find out what is going on with me, you know. So I went to all these psychics and stuff and trying to figure it out. I talked to a lot of my, you know, friends who are scientists, and they're like, I'm not getting anything, so I don't know why you're getting it, but I'm not getting it. So I was like, okay, well, let me try and figure this out. And I really wasn't getting anywhere with it. But like when I would do a thing with a psychic, I would kind of get my own information. I'd be like trying to find something from them, but then all of a sudden be like, I'd be tuning in to what I needed to know then.
mm-hmm.
And you know, when I saw Allison on YouTube, I thought, oh, this is an intriguing person. You know, I should try to see if I could, you know, get set up with whatever is that she did. I never looked into it, what it was that she did at all. I went to her website one time and tried to make an appointment, and there was nothing, you know. And then one day she had it up that she was taking clients, and I was like, oh, okay, I should go do that, even though I had just done something with a psychic. And I was like, I don't really know what this is going to do, but let's just try it. And that was huge. It was like it was a big deal, because what she does isn't like trying to read you. You read yourself, and I think that's really huge. And the kind of the science or the technique behind what she does is it really drives you to have just tons and tons of visions. It's pretty much like you know, sort of like 10 years of my life in visions wrapped into just one session with her, which is, you know, it's still a couple hours of going through stuff, but she's able to jump you around, move you in and out of things. And then you have a bunch of questions, and so she can go through those. And so it was pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm. Folks that I know that have gone to her, they all say the exact same thing. But I think you two have a different kind of connection, though, because it seems like where your work leaves off, hers comes in, and it's more of it's a whole approach. You get part of it, and then she can flesh it out for you or help you flesh it out.
Yeah, we decided to work together, and that's been absolutely fabulous, because yeah, she gets the other side of the information stream, and then it feeds off of each other. It's like a snowball effect.
Well, that was, you know, I spoke with someone not too long ago, and what I realized is that if the person you talk to does not recognize what comes through, like if it's not already in their bank, they won't see it. And so there were some things that she brought through for me, and she interpreted it one way, but I realized really what they were trying to say. And
So
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, you went and followed up on it and kind of explored it yourself.
Right. And I think that, like, if you spoke with someone that wasn't, I don't want to say as advanced, but if they didn't speak the same way you did, they may not get what you're,
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say.
She's definitely, because of all the, you know, because, you know, I don't know what it is. It's something about maybe her vibration or something. When you see her, it stimulates certain people to want to contact her.
Mm-hmm.
And then through those contacts, she's, you know, experienced so many crazy things. I mean, what she released at that Sedona conference was that basically you don't have to really sit there and wait for an alien to come, because you have a fractal of you that's connected to one of these beings, and a lot of them actually. You have, probably 100 or so different versions of you out there. And when she said that, she basically said that some clients of hers had saw themselves on a ship as these weird beings, all kinds of different ones, and then they saw themselves as other things. And when she said that, it just hit me that, like, okay, I have these fractals. And then I started feeling like it was okay to connect with these beings, because before I felt like, because I had an experience where it was kind of scary for me, I was kind of standoffish. But ever since I decided that I would go ahead and start working with visions where there was a being that was an alien that wanted to give me information, it just opened up a whole new world for me.
Worlds, realms. Well, I mean, okay. So, what do you remember? What is? Because I do really believe that when you saw the first craft when you were a child, that triggered you. That was not, that was by design, and then you chased that. You wanted to know more and more and more, and it just created this hunger. So when did you start feeling those things? I mean, when did you start to see things and realize what you were seeing?
I think it was I mean, I was always an artist, when I was a young man, so I would always draw stuff, but I didn't really think too much about it. And I had like reoccurring visions of the future all the time. I saw myself in other lifetimes, and basically like I died. And when I was like 3 years old, I saw myself as a man being rolled up in carpet in like Chicago or something, like somebody killed me. And that was like a reoccurring dream when I was a little kid. And I hadn't even, I never watched a show. I had no idea about any of that. And I was just like, what's going on? And then eventually that went away, and it replaced itself with another lifetime where I was like a hippie and I overdosed. And that was a reoccurring dream for a while. So there was these things that were happening to me, and I thought it was very, very strange. And I talked to my family members, nobody else was having those experiences. But basically, yeah, I went and I did everything I could possibly do, studied every single thing. Like typical degree is about 120 to 160 units, and I got 400 when I graduated, just studying every single discipline I could possibly do. I talked to the guys at NASA and at Edwards Air Force Base, and they recommended that, and so I did that. But then after that, I realized, wait a minute, there's nothing here. Like I made a nuclear fusion reactor when I was 22, but I didn't make a UFO. So I was like, okay, something's missing here. And so I had, my aunt was she kind of led some EST programs and stuff, and so she had me do meditation, and I went and did that, and so I could connect really well doing that. And I just finally realized that, you know what, I need to start tapping into that, because this is kind of leading nowhere. Regular science and is not leading me to where I want to be. Certainly for work and stuff, I was successful, but in getting this other information, it wasn't taking me there. So then I decided to go 100% into, just trying to see what could come from just like the universe or meditating.
But to even know that there is more. I mean, and when I think of science, and I don't want to offend anyone, I always think of a box. You have to prove it, and people have to witness it, and obviously now that's not the case. Things are starting to change, and I don't know if they are, or we're just evolving to a place where we see things differently. But to have that kind of hunger and to have that kind of drive, and you didn't know what you were really even trying to find, and that's what you never questioned whether or not this was real. I mean, that's where I get so wound up, is that I question, was this real? Is this crazy? And you don't. And Allison, I think she was a CPA
Yeah,
in her former life. And you can see it. I mean, she's so intelligent and not, I mean, yes, she can talk the woo, but not really. I mean, her woo isn't even really woo. And so it's so interesting to see both of you with such strong, both sides of your brain are so strong, I think. And so that's amazing. What we call it now is the orb. With the orb, it started out and you were thinking about doing, you know, free energy. You think about doing different things, and it's like, no, that's not it. That's not it. And you kept looking for the meaning. So it sounds like it's some sort of a gateway, like a portal, that potentially it really can be a portal.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's sort of like it's these guys, they created this light from something very similar, but it's on a nano scale,
Mm-hmm.
and they call it a singularity. They call it a singularity, and so this is kind of what this is. It's just, it's somewhat some type of singularity, and in a singularity, anything can happen. So mathematically or physics wise, they just don't know, and typically you just stay away from those because you know, you could maybe cause some problems, and B, it's just like there's nothing to like teach you what that could be. So each one of those events that you see where it flashes out the light is a singularity occurrence. And, you know, I'm working on trying to make it so that it's constantly producing those, just one constant everlasting singularity. But I'm not there yet. I've gotten tons of information on how to do it, but it takes like full-time work, and I have a regular job, and I have to support, you know, my family and stuff, so that doesn't work.
So right now it flashes, it has a pulse, and then eventually it'll be one long
Yeah,
pulse.
yeah, eventually it'll just be on. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's made out of these materials. It's mostly like super gentle materials, and there's no caustic output material. I don't know about like if there's any. I checked. There's no radiation, but there's some type of radiation. But there's no like damaging radiation from what I can tell. But I still have to do more work and understand that. I also found that turning down the power is way better than turning it up. So if you turn it up, you get these kind of scary green waves that come out, and they seem like, I don't know. I mean, at some point I'm gonna have to play with that and see what it actually does, but it's a little bit disconcerting.
I like the pink ones, the pink,
Yeah, I
the
like
purple, the gold.
right. Yeah, those are the ones I like. These really scary green wave is, I don't know what's up with it, but
You have recently been given another project
yeah,
by
I've been
the
having another
Galactics.
project. Yeah, let's see if I can pull that up real quick.
That's amazing. So do you work with any group more than others? Do you know?
Groups.
Like the Galactics or the or
So well, one of the things that happened after the Sedona thing was I was given this trippy portal. I don't know. Allison and I were just sitting there, and she touched my forehead, and all of a sudden, this isosceles, like orange isosceles triangle portal, like opened up and took me to this place, and it was like in the center of a moon, and it was a pyramid, but on the top of it was this huge like pearl inserted into the top of it. And so you walk into this place, and it's like all cut rock, and there's like this console. When you get to it, when you get to the center, you touch that, and it like takes your intent into this room, and then you go into this room, and there's like this keypad that comes up, and you know, I'm typing. I have no idea what I'm doing, but there's these symbols that I've never seen before, and you touch those, and then the room, it goes all the way around, and there's all these screens, and each one is a variation of the reality that you are trying to get to. And at the first time I ever done it, it seemed like I was like this sort of like lizard man that was in there, and he was interested in this one area, so I went through the screen. I walked through the screen as him, once I got on the other side, I was a different being. I'd like shapeshifted into like a really powerful green human-ish thing that kind of had scales on it. But the whole thing, this thing could travel super, super fast through forest and stuff. And there were these humans that were sort of like Maya or Aztec or something. And it would go to where the king would pray, and it would tell him stuff behind there was like a an image that he was praying to, and then this being would speak to him and tell him what to do. So I started telling him what to do, and then I told him to love everybody and make sure that people's unions were loving, and it kind of has to do with some of these couples that you and I talked about a long time ago. But then I came back and I told Allison about it, and she goes, "Oh, maybe you she's like, I don't know if you should be doing that." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I should be doing that either." So we did a meditation on it, and it was like, no, he's supposed to use that to study the orb in different realities where it already exists. And so I started doing that. But so that was the first thing I started working with a lot. And then I started going, well, I want to try to understand more about this orb thing. And my original vision, which was in my original vision with her, I was in space, and she asked, "Is there anything on the other side? Is there anything in space that you see that's attracting you?" And I say, "Yeah, there's a light, but I feel like once I get to the edge of the asteroid belt, I can't get there. It's like I'm getting stopped." And then she's like, "Well, what's that? What's going on there?" And eventually, I got in contact with these light beings that were on the other side. They were in this orb. There was like a mom, a dad, and a little kid. They were looking at me and they were trying to talk to me, but it's like I wasn't picking up the information. I was getting some visuals. I could tell that they were sending me signals, but I couldn't really interpret what they were. And then they told me that there was a yellow alien that was a group of aliens that were living in the asteroid belt, and they would talk to me about that. And so then when I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I saw the being, and he started giving me information that a long time ago there was some type of war. The planet that was the asteroid belt blew up, and they were one of the beings that stayed behind. When that happened, it's like we lost touch with higher frequency beings that were there outside of our solar system. And that basically my life's goal, one of the reasons why I get all this information, is to stimulate me into having enough confidence to go and try to build this orb on my own. And so I talk to that being a lot now. I just ask it, what is the next thing I should do? And it gives me information, and I go do that. And since then, I've also connected with, there's a council I connect with, but they're more of sort of like beings from, it seems like most of them are beings from the solar system that because I talk to this yellow being, they have some kind of tie-in where they're allowed to listen in. And sometimes they give me warnings. Yeah, he told you to do that, but if you do that over here, we're not going to like that. If you do that over here, then we're going to be okay with it. So they kind of give me that kind of information, which I don't really like, but since potentially I might have to listen to them, so I go ahead and check out what they have to say. And then I connect with the orb people. They talk to me now. I'm able to basically bring the orb that they have into our reality and sort of surround myself with it. And when I do that, I can communicate with them. And then there's these crystal people that are sort of fractals of Allison and I in another life. And I can talk to them and find out things. And they're the ones that told me to create this device. I guess I should pull that up. This is this device that shows images on both sides.
Wow.
And basically they want me to make a computer out of this and make it out of crystal so that we're not in these computers we're using now, which are just one-sided, or create a phone that would have this two-sidedness to it, or other devices that would allow us to experience things at the same time. So like, let's say you're at a design company and you want to design a new car. if you had this double-sided screen, then people on the other side of your desk could see what you're doing and add to what you're doing instead of you doing everything by yourself. So sort of like would expand this kind of group, collaboration.
Like the group
And then
thinking.
also they said that they wanted us to stop being isolated in our computer systems.
Mhm.
And that way, like if you're looking at something interesting, somebody else might want to have an exchange with you. And then you're also not doing kind of, heinous stuff on your computer, because basically if you got rid of these ones and replaced it with those ones, people could see what you're doing. It's kind of a lack of privacy in a way too, but it seems like that's kind of what they want.
Well, you can't hide behind your screen, but it seems that if you're getting this information from higher powers, maybe, I don't know if they're higher powers or different powers, just powers out there, that ultimately it would be used for something greater.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Everything seems to have incremental steps.
Right. And eventually when I get this, when I get to some other points, I'm supposed to put it in the orb so that you can see.
Is that new? That information?
Yeah, that's new.
We hadn't talked about that one.
No, we didn't talk about that. But yeah, that's something that I'm also working on, is to try to get it in there somehow. But I don't know yet how to do that. They just told me.
Maybe that's where the holographic aspect comes in, or holographic.
I'm making a hologram too, and I'm, that's my thought, is that either somehow I get integrated into there. But right now I've got several different holograms I'm working on, and we'll see where they go.
I want to talk about this after the show, because I see something really cool. Wow, that is amazing. So, how much time do you have to devote to this? Is this what you're doing when you're only sleeping 3 hours a night?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I when I'm, I'm a very busy person at work, but I try to just make time in the evening and work on this a little here, a little there. But the thing is that like I had gotten this drawing of this computer, and I drew it out. Like I was doing a meditation. I got a picture. I drew it out, sent it to Allison. She goes, "Oh wow, that's amazing! That's amazing." Whatever. Forget what her reaction exactly was. Then I flew up there, and then I built that like in one day. I built that.
You built that in one day?
Yeah. Wow. And then she's like, "This is like crazy. Like, how could you do that?" And I was like, "I don't know."
So the information was all there. You just received this as a download, basically.
Right, I just got a download. Yeah. So then I was like, pretty easily able to just whip that out.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to my finger painting over here. Years ago, I woke up and on the side of my wall, bright, big orange symbols written across my wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember looking at it thinking, what is that? And I closed my eyes, opened them, and they're still there. And then eventually they went away. Night before last, I woke up and I saw written, and there were like 4 lines in blue written on my wall. I mean, they were large. And I closed my eyes and I opened them again, and I was trying to focus, and I can't see. I'm like 20 over 800. I can't see. But it wasn't, you wouldn't see it with your own eyes anyway. So it's interesting. I don't know why I feel compelled to tell you that, but
that's totally cool. Yeah, I had mentioned to you before that I was driving and I just started getting symbols, on the top of like my eyelids. Sort of like my subconscious was coming into my conscious, and it wasn't symbols, it was like physics, mathematical equations and stuff. And I was like, no, you guys don't do that right now.
No, I have to drive. I have to drive. Well, I was actually going to ask you that because it's because you sleep less. Do they sometimes come in the middle of the day?
To me, it's something I have to practice. So there are these techniques. I ran into this guy named John Peniel. He used to be alive. He ran this website called Atlantis.to, and he was a monk supposedly from this group called the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, the Children of the Law of One. It's not the same Law of One that Wilcox is promoting.
Okay.
but it's this ancient Tibetan group that do all these crazy meditations. In the back of his book, there's 22 meditations. And when you start messing around with those, you can get visions during the day. And so I was doing that. And he had mentioned that, you might not want to do some of this stuff in our current culture because, it's pretty much outside of the norm. And then when that started happening to me, I started getting visions when I was driving or in inappropriate times. I was like, okay, I need to shut that off. I shouldn't do that.
Well, were they visions that were there? I mean, did you open a portal or what is that? I mean, is it stuff is it
I had
bad? I mean,
no,
do you know what
it's
they
not
meant?
bad. It's a fabulous. It's just, if I was a monk, I could do that.
I see. Yeah.
It's like monk life is a life where people are supporting you, and
Mhm.
you just have these visions, or you teach or whatever. But if you're one of the people that are supporting other people, then you really you kind of have to stay away from some stuff.
Yeah, you can't be inside all the time. Do you know of a life when you were in Atlantis?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure was Atlantis because anyway, I woke up one time and I was in this garden, and I was having this vision. I woke up and I was in a garden and I looked around and there was these red pyramids. Now I have no idea about this, but it was red pyramids and it had a cross. So it had a gold band around them. They had gold bands around them, and then they had like this gold that came down that had a cross on the bottom of it. So it's almost like an upside down cross. It was really trippy, and I kind of like stayed away from telling anybody about it because it sounds weird. But anyway, I was this priest there, and then I just wanted to know like what was my most highest spiritual path, and that's what came up when I was doing this meditation, and then I saw him. There was some kind of emergency and he was trying to help people and he's super worried. And so I disconnected from that because I didn't want to feel that.
Yeah.
Later, I connected with this guy again, and and I can connect with him now. And actually, that Peter, can't remember his last name.
Neil? No.
The guy from ECETI, Australia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Slattery.
Slattery. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a session, and in that session, these Octarians came in and said for me to go back and connect with him and bring all the technology he would release to me into this reality. So I started doing that recently only. But yeah, this guy, it was absolutely the most craziest thing. The last time I saw him, there was this like infinite walkway he was walking down with these buildings that were like 1,000 feet tall and roofs that were like 1,000 feet or 10,000 feet. I don't know. As far as you could see was a roof that somebody made. And he was walking down this thing and some people were walking up and I could see people looking at me and they were like respecting me because I was in this robe and stuff. And then I asked him, about myself. And he goes, "Oh yeah, you're in the book." And I was like, "What book?" And he's like, the book that I forget what he called it, but there's a book that has everything in it or something.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, "Yeah, you're in there." And he's like, "Why don't you come back later when I have some free time and we'll go through the book." So I went through that with him. I can't remember all the details because so many things have passed by, but it was pretty amazing. It was just one of the most amazing visuals I've had since maybe that Crystal City place was to see this guy, this Atlantean priest. But so many other things that happened to me. Like I think this hasn't been broadcasted, but all of a sudden I was meditating and all of a sudden there was Moses. And I was like,
Moses?
Yeah, the Moses. And I've talked to him a few times, and he basically said, I was like, "Is there some kind of message that you want to give to me? Like, why am I seeing you?" And he goes, "Yeah, create a society where people feed each other." And I was like,
Oh wow.
"What?" Like, okay. He's like, "Yeah, that's really all I need to tell you." I was like, "All right, I don't know how I'm supposed to do that, but it's good information.
Well, that means so much. I mean, it's not about me, it's about you. And if everybody was about you, then you feed it everybody. That's beautiful, simple, but not.
Yeah, really, really beautiful. And then also met up with Atlas.
Like the Atlas?
Yeah, one day all of a sudden I was meditating, and all of a sudden it was like, poosh, I was there, and there's this huge man, like super strong, with like no shirt on and stuff, and he's like all buffed out, and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, yeah, I'm Atlas. And I can't remember what he told me to do, but it was like, he was like something like, just warning me, I think, about like my work, that I'm sort of like, going in a place that is sort of like where he went. I also seen the ruler, king of Atlantis, a couple of times. Just some weird stuff is happening, and I'd mentioned that some of my visions have been going to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of scared because one of the time I was doing this meditation, this angel wing came and touched my body, and I was like, "What the heck?" And it was like, I was like, "Am I going to die? Like, what's happening?" And then that night, my experiment blew up, and because I saw that person, and then later asked why, it was like, to be careful about my experiment, and so I was like, okay. But yeah, I've been like, it's been weird because like I've been going, it's like, so the orb thing takes you to this heavenly place, but it's not heaven. So they told me this isn't heaven. This is like a heaven, like it's like an advanced race of sort of like human beings, but it's not heaven. And I was like, okay. So then like I keep getting these images where the orb is turned into a portal, and you walk in and you go to heaven. You just walk right into heaven. You see all your buddies, your family that's passed away. And one time I was doing this meditation, and I saw myself go underground into this facility, deep, deep underground. And Allison was there. Allison and I were there, and we were working on this. It was like a Stargate, but it had the same look as my experiment. And it was going off, and we were adjusting it. And then all of a sudden it got to this point, and I go, "Hey, you want to go?" And she's like, "Yeah." She dropped a tablet. We held hands, and we walked through this thing. And then all of a sudden there was the stairway to heaven. We walked up this thing. I didn't know where it was going, but when we got to the top, like my family, who I know had passed away, were there. And I greeted them. And then her family members that had passed away were on her side. She greeted them. And then we walked into this place where it was like, okay, you can create your own reality here, you and Allison. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I was like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I just want to like, just connect. And I don't really care about creating new reality. So I was like, yeah, me either. So we just kind of just like hugged. And then all of a sudden we went and we broke up into these fractals and like elementals, and then just sort of like floated off like a flag in the wind or something. Just that was the end of that. It was cool though. It was weird.
But it's almost like they're showing you what the potential is for what you're bringing into this reality. Like this is what you'll have access to, and you get to, it's like you get the sneak peek.
I get a sneak peek. Yeah. And one of the guys at the Sedona conference, he's like, I'm getting that you're supposed to integrate with this, like integrate with it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I feel like he's right. Like I have to integrate with that in order to take it to the next step. I have to be like pure. I have to eat like really pure foods. Like if I don't follow certain regimens, I have a hard time connecting, and then when I get back to being pure, I get it again.
Okay. So I said this last time too. I'm confused by that, because doesn't our intent override that?
Yeah, we were talking about that at the ECETI Ranch. Somebody was kind of upset, I guess, that I was saying this, and
Because they don't want to do it.
yeah, probably. But they, and I feel like it's sort of like, okay, let's say we're like a Ferrari or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't put regular gas in one of those and get the performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It may look like a Ferrari, but it's not going to drive like one unless you feed it that fuel that it likes. And I feel like that's sort of what it is a little bit. Maybe I'm sure that there's ways like that teaching of the lost teachings of Atlantis. That stuff turns on all kinds of crazy stuff, and of course they recommend that you eat, that you stay vegetarian and you don't kill any animals and all that kind of stuff. But I asked him, I said, hey, like I wasn't ready for that, and I was like, what if I have a steak, And he's like, well, if you feel like what you're doing in life would allow you to consume that beast, then do it. But if you're not doing anything good for humanity, then don't do it. And I was like, oh, okay, well. But, at the time I was traveling all over the world and I just couldn't control my diet. So that happened,
Oh man, I tell you, the food thing, people get really funky about food. I mean, people, for some reason, food is very defensive. I mean, people get defensive when you say I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan or I don't drink milk or whatever. For some reason, it really pushes in on the way they view themselves and the world.
Well, we've been programmed. We've been programmed, heavily programmed, that we're supposed to have these food groups, blah 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 blah. I mean, I had a friend of mine, in high school. I would go to his house, and my family was kind of poor, and his family was pretty well off, and it would be like, what would you like for breakfast, Cole? And I'm like, just like some eggs and toast. Okay, what about some cream cheese? What about some he would just go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I'm like, dude, like we don't need that much food like for breakfast. It was like the Hilton's buffet over there, and I was like, what is going on here? He said, well, we have to have all the food groups. I was like, no, we don't. Like, what's going on? But yeah, I think that we're just, even myself, like I couldn't do it. Like I tried many times because we have this ranch in California. It's called Harris Ranch. And when you go by there, you just want to be a vegetarian after that. You just like, there's no way, they're just treating these animals terribly. And then, I spent like 6 months doing that, and then I can't do it. But when I started hanging out with Allison, it was like, she has like everything she eats that's vegetarian just tastes amazing. Mm-hmm. And then I started realizing that, holy crap, like you can have, like the only reason why steak tastes good is because you put a bunch of spices in there. If you don't do that, it tastes bad. Right. Same chicken tastes like almost like rotten. If you don't marinate it or do something to it, it's not going to taste any good. What are those marinades made out of? They're like some type of plant. So it's really interesting that you get these really defensive people, but they haven't really thought through like what it is that they're actually doing to try and make their meat taste good.
Right. Well, I went raw vegan, not for very long because I didn't know what I was doing. And at the time, my kids were really young and I was used to making something really quick. I could make a grilled cheese sandwich. Well, you can't do that when you're vegan. And I ended up with bruises and
right. Vegetarians can't.
Exactly. No, that's true. Well, I always say this, I gained weight. I mean, I gained like 10 pounds, 15, something. I gained weight because I was eating so much peanut butter and nuts because I didn't know, again, I think you have to prepare yourself and I think you have to learn how to cook because I met this one person, she's a chef in Rica. Beautiful. She's amazing. And she's raw vegan chef and the food is unbelievable. But it takes a lot of work. I mean, it really, and I don't know if I think it takes a lot of work that it's just that like you have to learn how to do it or if it really does take a lot of work and a lot of prep. But I think you have to love food and love the preparing and know that you're nurturing your body.
Allison doesn't even cook. Everything she eats is raw.
Is that right? But look how beautiful she is. I mean, she's stunning.
She's beautiful, but she also just like when you go out to eat with her, you just can't even believe how she found out. Like she looked at this menu and it's, a place that mostly has like, meat lover stuff. And she pulls this stuff out and you're like, okay, I'll try that, I guess, and the next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, it's like one of the best meals I've ever had. And then like when you hang out with her, it's all raw foods. She doesn't cook anything. She used to be a chef.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In another life. Yeah. When she was younger. And so she really knows a lot about how to make stuff if she wanted to actually cook. But she believes in having the raw food. And when I started eating, good homegrown fruit and vegetables from local farms around here, and I go to the certain store for that. I immediately dropped a bunch of weight. I felt super healthy, started kind of just really, really enjoying my food. And it was really strange because it's like most of the stuff you get at the grocery store, just a regular one, they were picked green. And so you're basically eating all these tannins in there. They're basically poisons that you're putting into your body. It gets stuck in your body. It causes all these effects. And they're not telling you that. They put them into these CO2 systems that make them look like they color them. They pull the color out of them. So your strawberries looks like strawberries. Your oranges look like oranges, and your apples look like apples. But they were picked totally green, and they don't taste right. They taste like nothing.
Yeah.
So then it's like, if you are buying that trying to go vegetarian, you're not going to be able to last because it's just doesn't taste good.
It does. You do have to do research, and it is tough. I mean, it is, let me rephrase that. It can be if you don't do the research. And I remember reading a book once. It's okay, no milk, no fish because of the mercury, no bread, the flour, and I was like, oh my God, what can I eat?
Yeah, right.
I don't know what to eat. And I just felt so.
That's why it's bogus. It's kind of a bogus thing because it's like unless you know somebody who's successful at it, it's going to be really hard.
So we went to that restaurant in Sedona, and Tiff and I think ate there in 2 days. We ate there 4 times. What was it, like the chocolate? Was it chocolate? Anyway, it was phenomenal, and it was raw vegan, and it was phenomenal. It was really no dairy, no gluten, and I thought, okay, no taste. I mean, it was phenomenal. So anyway, so I digress. So you went out to the ranch, City Ranch, James's place, James Gilliland's place. How did you like it? I have not been yet.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it because it reminded me of when I was a kid. My grandmother always had these ranches, and I just really enjoyed that when I was a little kid. And she always had kind of like this strangeness, like that would have, like, just, I don't know, just not normal. Like
her or things that happened.
Her, but no, like outbuildings, and just she would always get some place that had like tons of other buildings on it,
Mm-hmm.
And then when family would come over, they'd stay there. So it's kind of very, very similar to that kind of feel. I really wasn't expecting anything really, except to get the training from John Babanco to do the remote viewing. But it was really, really neat hanging out with those guys, and they really have this knack for capturing on video the UFOs that were flying over and pointing them out. They have these like super high intensity beamed lasers that they would shoot up at them, and then you could immediately spot it on your camera. So that was super fun. But most of the time it was raining, so we didn't have a lot of that. But he had this labyrinth where inside there they have these areas that are set aside for various different like Pleiadians, mm-hmm. or Bigfoot, or elementals, or whatever. And he said, you guys need to go check that out, and you'll trip out. And at first I was kind of like, it sounds a little weird, so I kind of wasn't too sure about it. Allison and I walked around. There's an area where you can walk, and so we did a lot of walks. We walked by it a few times, and then finally I was like, all right, let me just go over there and see, like, real quick what's up. And I immediately looked at this sign, and it said elementals and Pleiadians. And I immediately got hit with this like whirlwind of elementals just going in and out of my body and back and forth, and just like going all kinds of crazy on me. And I was like, whoa. And I was only there for I was there for like a second. I looked at it, and it just immediately hit me. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. And then oh no, it was elementals and inner earth, that first sign. And so then I went down to the inner earth after I experienced those guys, immediately went to inner earth, saw all these things that I had been seeing before, but it took a lot of work for me to get there with my meditations, but it just immediately was there. And then I went to the other sign that said Pleiades, And I had gone there before. So about 10 years ago or more, I wanted to go to the Pleiades because I had, in one of my visions, I got kidnapped by these aliens after I went in a spaceship, and they said they were on their way to the Pleiades. So I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get there. So I decided to go into the sun. I just decided one day that the sun isn't the sun, that it's this portal. And so I took myself there. I went into actually found myself where I had built a UFO. Then I took that guy and his UFO into the sun, came out the other end, and we were in the Pleiades. When we got there, there was an armada waiting there and to stop us. You can't come here. You're not at the level that we're going to allow to be here. And so I was like, okay, what are you talking about? Like, if this is my fantasy, why is this here? And they're like, oh no, you're going to go back to Earth, fix it. And then when you fix it, we'll come visit you.
Fix Earth?
Yeah. That's what they said. I don't know, I had no idea.
Okay, I'll get right on that.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. But then when I saw them at the ranch, they let me in. They said, yeah, it's cool. You can come now. And
you're sanctioned. I guess you fix things.
I don't know about that, but worked on myself maybe a little bit. They let me in.
So what did Inner Earth look like?
So for me, it's this kind of orangey, bluish kind of sky. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. It's like everything is just super harmonious. There's like a guide that kind of takes me around, and there's this place where it seems like I can go and sort of like live. There's this like home, but it's like really strange. It's like built into sort of like the environment, and it just has these two, like there's a roof that comes out and there's a flooring that comes out, and then you just see this amazing view of like the inner earth. And I've been down there a couple of times. I kind of got scared one time because they were like, yeah, why don't you just come down here and live? And I was like, no, I'm not coming down here to live, guys. I'm just like visiting, and I got kind of freaked out by that one time. But then when I saw the inner earth again, it was like everything was cool, and they were all nice. But then when I went to the Bigfoot one, it was interesting because I'd never experienced Bigfoot, had no inclination or interest at all.
Back in the walking at the ranch. Yes.
Yeah, I went to this once at Bigfoot, and I walked up to that, and I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen, And so then I saw the sign, said Bigfoot, closed my eyes, and then there was this lady Bigfoot, all of a sudden, like in a cave, and she goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And just like I could just feel this love, just like it was like coming at me, like peace and love, and just like really, really special connection that I had no idea that was going to happen. And she was just like, if you ever need anything, it's kind of like your grandma or something, when you go visit, they're so loving, and they're always
doting. Yeah.
Yeah. When we leave, they're giving you tons of food and whatever. It just felt like that kind of an experience. And she was like, yeah, you and Allison can come here anytime, and we'll just hang out and we can meditate or whatever. And I was like, that is really weird. Like, WTF, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but then later I had an experience when I was doing the remote viewing, which was even more strange. But I had no idea what was going on. I mean, they had some people had pictures of Bigfoot footprint, and there was always something was going on. But I had no idea that they were going to have us remote view Bigfoot. But Alice and I worked together, and she gave me a number, and I wrote down the number, and then I started having this experience.
Okay, so you had no idea what the number meant. So she's basically, you pull something out of the hat saying, okay, I pull a number 7, and then you have to go in and try to figure out what that is.
Yeah, so you write down a random number. Usually it's an 8-coded number, but for this they just did 4 numbers. So they took half the class out, and they give half the class this number, and the other half of the class were inside and found areas that we want to hang out and try to do one of these experiences. But this was not normal remote viewing. Normal remote viewing, you write on a piece of paper. But John's trying to teach us that your body is experiencing the remote viewing before your mind is. So if you can tap into that, you can really tap into a deeper version of it. Because one of the first things you do in remote viewing is you put the scribble down. You get a number and then you scribble, and then you touch the scribble, and that leads to all this new information. So in this case, you do the same thing, but then you just let your body tell you what's happening. And so yeah, I didn't know what it was about, and I was completely freaked out when I found out. But all of a sudden, I was floating down from space. It just felt like a feather, floating, and then all of a sudden I was dropped, and I hit the ground, and I was on this plane or something. I start walking, and then it went into a river. I went into a river, and then I swam. I let the river take me to the end of it, where it turned into a lake. Once I got to the lake, I swam out of the lake, and then with these people in these shanty towns, maybe India or somewhere like that, and they saw me, and they just kind of kept doing what they were doing. They looked over at me, and then they kept doing what they're doing. So I didn't know what they were seeing, but I just kept going, and then I decided to go up this mountain, and so I started going up into this mountain. Had stopped for some supplies or something, and then I started going up to this mountain, went into this cave, and then the cave led down. So I was like, this is really weird. I'm going down in this cave, and it's super dark. I really, I don't know what's happening. I'd be telling Allison what I was experiencing this whole time. So then I got to a place in this, path, and finally got to a really big cave. It opened up, and there was gold, all random, just like it was like a miner's find or something. And then I decided to sleep there. And what was weird was that I didn't go try and grab any gold. So I was like, why isn't this person wanting to get the gold? I had no idea. So I fell asleep. When I woke up, there was a portal, and it was like white portal, and it was just bright white. And I was like, okay, I'm going in. I went in, and then it looked like I was in heaven. And there was this this kind of like a crystal cathedral or something. I went inside there, immediately went down and started praying. I was like, this is really odd. I don't understand what's happening. I'm praying, and I was happy. I felt like I was home and happy place, and I was enjoying myself for a few minutes in this session that I was feeling good. And then all of a sudden it was like I could feel these beings that were around in this cathedral, kind of like prompting me to leave. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I want to stay. I remember saying, I want to stay. I don't want to leave. And then they're like, no, you have to leave. And then I was like, because I sometimes when I do my meditations, I call for Allison. I'm like, where's Allison? And then this woman comes out, and she was super kind, but she said, you must leave. You have to go.
Time to go.
Yeah, time to go. And I was like, okay. So then I stood up and I walked out. And I walked out of the cathedral. Then all of a sudden I was walking down the stairway to heaven. And I was like, oh my God. And I started feeling like really emotional over that, like leaving heaven, like walking down instead of up the stairway, When I got down to the bottom of it, there was a portal. I walked out of it, and then I was like in I was like in America, and I was probably like at James's ranch. I had no idea, but I came out, and I was in this open plain, and and I started walking, and then I went into the forest. I started walking into the forest, and then I saw this house. I went to the house and was looking through the window, and people were eating dinner. And I said, hey, can I stop now? And she said, yeah, you can stop now. And then later they told me that, yeah, that was Bigfoot. I was like, what?
Okay, so you were in the body of Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So you were supposed to astral travel or to remote view. I don't know what the difference is between the two, by the way.
Remote viewing is typically you see like some land, or you see a house, or you see people, or you see a car or something, and you draw it. That's typical remote viewing. But in this case, you're supposed to. I don't know what you're supposed to do, but I think it's okay. Like we did another one where it was me in my past life, and I was this lady that like gotten eaten up by like a bear or something. She was dying, and her kids were there, and I was her, and I didn't know what was going on, but I was crying and stuff, and I was like, this is really weird, but I guess that's how I do it. I don't know.
So, okay, so you had permission and you somehow merged with this Bigfoot, or
Yeah,
is that okay to call him that? I mean, I never know if there's I don't know. I guess
yeah,
it's just a word. But
yeah,
so that is so cool.
yeah,
So what did
weird.
they say when you got back? I mean, your number was a Bigfoot.
Yeah, my number was a Bigfoot, and many people got like they got, oh, there's a like there's an open field and there's forestry or blah 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 blah. So they got the typical remote viewing stuff, but I had this like crazy experience. And then John was taken back by it because he goes, oh, well, that's really weird because like up in this mountain here, there's a cave, and the Indians refer to that cave as heaven. It's like you can access heaven through that cave, and it seems like Bigfoot goes there, but we don't know. And so it was really weird that you had that experience, and I was like, oh, that's like I
They
have
know
no.
now. They now know what's going on. That is incredible. So have you been able to access this since then, or have you tried?
I tried to access Bigfoot, and it was like I felt like I was being cut off. I hadn't, as soon as I got back, so like it's 4 days of basically eating salads with Allison, and I get like really pure, and I can see certain things. And then I come back, and it's kind of like I need some proteins. I have some sushi or something like that. And I'm sort of half, vegetarian, half, fish protein.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, they're like, no, that's not happening. You're not able to connect. And so I kind of dropped it. I really wanted to find out, what was he doing? Like, what was that? What's the purpose? Like, he's supposed to leave heaven to go do something, right? Or he's supposed to leave that place, wherever it was. I don't know if it's heaven, but he's supposed to leave that place and go do something. So I wanted to find out what it was he was supposed to do. And so I just tried to connect, and I got to him, but then it was like, no,
You're not compatible, or now's
yeah,
not the right time.
or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe at some point I'll find out, but not right now.
So when you see that, do you see it as first person and third person?
I can go in and out. Yeah, I can go out, but like I sense myself. Like I don't sense the being so much. I sense my essence.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go in, then I'm walking, I see what they're doing. If I go out, I just see more of like what they could see, but like from like a little bit above where they're standing or something.
See, I think that's incredible. And I think it's incredible that they let you in. And it's funny because I know different people that can channel, and that must be what that feels like for the person that comes into the body, is exactly what you just did. So I wonder what they are doing.
Well, the interesting thing was there was another image. There was an image that somebody had. It was like this little being. It was like this little being, and they had taken a picture of it, and they gave me a number to give to Allison. So then Allison basically did exactly the same thing I did with that being. She became the being. I forget all the details, but it was like this being had come down from a spaceship, a triangular spaceship. And the weird thing was that everybody got a triangle spaceship. And then, but anyway, she was telling me that she'd come down from a triangle spaceship, and she was trying to inform people of something. And and I was like, okay, well, go back to the spaceship that you came from, because you can lead them. So she goes, okay. So she went back to the spaceship. She explained what it looked like and stuff. And then I said, okay, why did they ask you to leave? And so she goes, okay. So then there's like a table with beings in it, and they were arguing about sending people to Earth to try to wake us up. And they're frustrated because we're not doing it. And they're running out of time. And there's some event that's coming, and they feel like we're not waking up fast enough, and they're doing everything they can. They're sending all different kinds of beings down here. People are seeing them, and it's kind of like the people that saw, if those people saw me and I was Bigfoot, they just looked at me and then just looked away. You know, it was like kind of like I'm not supposed to really look at you, right?
Yeah.
Something.
Acknowledge you. Yeah.
Yeah, not acknowledge you. So so it's like they're doing all this work to kind of bring us out of this, but we're not paying any attention to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was weird because like the weirdest thing she said in there was that, like, okay, all these beings are showing up. They're trying to wake us up. We're not waking up, so more beings are coming. Eventually, there's going to be so many beings here that it's going to cause an event. It's going to actually cause an event. And I was like, well, what's the event it's going to cause? Another Grand Canyon, she said. And I was like, what? Like,
So perhaps the Grand Canyon is not exactly what we think.
Yeah, well, some people think it's this huge lightning strike that's like planet to planet. Like somehow our planet got close to another planet and it just discharged.
Really?
Canyon, and then created that. There's this crazy looking similar place on Mars that's just like etched out like an arc welder hit it.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Anyway,
I've never heard that.
when she said that, I was like, oh my God, like that sounds pretty scary. Like to create Grand Canyons.
Well, I mean but that goes back to the event. And I do believe there are so many beings here right now. And I do believe that we are slow in waking up. I mean, I think I said this last time. It's like you go, like I come to pick you guys up and you're still asleep. And it's like, you're going to miss your flight. I told you I would be here at 6 and you're still in bed. Let's go. And that just has to be so frustrating because I think we are on a timetable, at least with this timeline. That is fascinating. That is fascinating. So did she get anything else? I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, that was pretty much it, because she started going, hey, this is too much like the event. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, okay, you can stop now. But yeah, it was like when she was first going through it, she's like, I don't understand. It looks like the event. And I was like, just tell me, answer the question, and then we'll figure that out later. But then it was just this picture of this being that somebody took on James's ranch. So it was like weird. And then the lady that took the picture, she took all our notes. She was super excited about Allison's reading.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, you guys both just came back with so much information. And from what I hear about Bigfoot, they can move in between the worlds. I mean, and that's exactly what you just said, but they do, and that's why they're there and then they're not there, that they can kind of blink out. And
Right.
there is a young male, I believe, that I always hear about on
Yeah.
the ranch.
Yeah, there's a young male that, you know, he comes and leaves footprints and blinks in and out, and you know, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see him, so I just have to. I mean, you know, the interesting thing is that James says a lot of stuff, and then it seems like there's something to it. You know, like when you're there, you sort of experience something, and you're kind of like, okay, you know, there's something going on.
There's no question that's I have never, I mean, anyone that I've ever known or have ever spoken to that has gone out there has had something big happen, something life-changing happen. Because I think that there's so much of it, we hope, you know, and I sit, and part of what I just love about you is you're so far beyond is this real? Am I making this up? Am I just really creative? Like somewhere along the line, you let that go, or maybe you never had that. And that is, unfortunately, I put that stop gap on somewhere. And I go back and forth with that. Actually, Alice and I have talked about that. It's just like, how do you believe? Like, how do you believe the stuff that you get? And she's like, you just do. And you feel
It's
into
the most interesting thing happening in my life is these visions, these things. So it's like I don't can't not believe it. It's sort of like, for most people, something super fun is go watch a show, or, go to a concert or something like that. And to me, this is sort of like that, but it's all new. So it's like, if you could experience, your most favorite band, but have it be a different band every time you go to try and experience it, with all these new people and all this new vision, and all this new creativity, then you would do it, right? I mean, so that's what's happening to me. It's just like, it's like the most craziest sci-fi movie, and every time I go in, it's a different one, and it's just still the most craziest one again, and then and then the next one's the most craziest one, and the next one's the most craziest one. So it's like, I don't know if how I would state, my belief or whatever, but it's just like, it's so interesting that I just can't stop.
But I guess it's getting to that place of I think so many people need to be grounded, need to be grounded in a reality, need to be grounded in, and you don't have, I mean, clearly that's not your need, which frees you up to go experience.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it can get scary, like it can get to the point where it's kind of like, what's real, what's unreal. Like when you get to the point where you're having visions, like if I was sitting here right now and having visions, that's pretty scary, because you start wondering if you're sane or not. Right. So you can get to the point, but for me, it's like, if I go meditate and I see something, I'm not scared of that. And plus, through the Lost Teachings of Atlantis, they taught me a lot of tricks. So I can never really have a bad dream, because I have these techniques that I use. It's sort of like, there's this movie Dreamscape, I think, where there was a guy that kind of figured out what I kind of figured out how to do, but he was evil. And he went and they have this machine that he connects to, and he went and caused the president to get a coma. And in the president's coma, he would attack the president with all these scary dreams. And then the other Dreamscape guy came in, and he had to fight that guy. When he got there, that guy could fly. He could do all kinds of crazy stuff in the dream world. But that's what these Tibetans teach you how to do. This Lost Teachings of Atlantis, it teaches you how to, I can fly, I can time travel, I can port, I can do all kinds of stuff in my dreams, and I can control that. And so if anything, I used to like go after people that were evil and try and get them caught and try and get them busted and mess with them, because I have this ability that I trained myself to learn. And so that also really helps if you have this background. Like my dad, I was telling my dad, hey, you should try this, and he's like, oh, last thing I want to do is have a dream and then have it be bad.
So your dad is a psychiatrist too, right?
He got a degree in psychiatry, but he never really went and did that. But yeah, he is definitely one of these people that wants to be grounded, Yeah. And he doesn't like any of this other stuff. And he used to be tormented by ghosts, and I stopped it for him. I said, okay. I said, Dad, like, you got these ghosts, and other people, my friends that come into the house, and they're like, there's a ghost in here. I'm like, that's exactly what my dad said, but it's never around when I'm here. It like disappears. He's like, no, I know for sure there's one. And then one time I was having a party, and a bunch of people slept over, and I was in my room, so I didn't know, but this white orb came in and was chasing them around the house. And they all ditched out my backyard, which leads to this like 100-foot drop, and they didn't care. They were out of there. I woke up in the morning, like, where did we go? They're like, dude, you didn't like that, was scary. I was like, what? So anyway, my dad was being tormented by that somehow, and was letting it get to him. So I said, okay, next time it comes, you tell Christ, I said, ask Jesus Christ to come into your body and just tell him to just take care of it. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, let's do that. And he's like, okay. So it happened, and he did that, and then it went away forever. It never came back.
They let it home.
Yeah.
That's like, I love James's, the clearing they do. I love that clearing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't know you went to the ranch then. Did you?
No. I've had him on the show, and I've had Ashley on the show. And so I just know a lot about it. I've not been out there yet,
okay.
but it is, So, okay, I just want to be really clear on this. So when you have these different things happen, you're conscious. I mean, you're completely, because a lot of times I I remember Tiffany talking about she left her body, and she said she licked the ceiling as she left because she wanted to like proof that she was there. But she said as soon as I really realize I'm out, she pops right back in. So it's
Oh.
like this consciousness thing. So when you're in these states, you're completely aware. So somehow you can
Yeah.
divorce the body.
You have to train yourself to do that, because otherwise you could either A, fall asleep
Mhm.
and completely forget everything, or you can drive yourself into these kind of negative areas. So what happens is that you know when you're kind of like moving in a curve. You're like, you just see yourself going, you're going somewhere, and you just keep going, you know. But if you see something, you go, hey, that's cool, and you start to go straight, you're out of it. You're just in your own imagination now. So that's like one of the keys that I learned from John Peniel was when you get in, it's like a flow, it's like a curvy flow, and you just keep going with that. And you can, like, I can pop forward or backwards or sideways, but basically you got to stay in that flow. And then as soon as, if you're tired, so that was the other thing that I got in one of my meditations with Allison about this, that portal that I was sort of gifted. I asked, when should I go, or maybe she asked, when should he go do that? And it was like in the morning, because in the morning I have a lot of energy. I haven't gone through the whole day. I'm not tired. And then a lot of times when I come home and I try and do something, I can't do it because I'm too tired. And I start falling asleep. I can't hold myself in that flow.
Right.
So
Right.
that's something else, that it takes some training.
So even when you're in the flow, you find yourself being pulled into it, into the curve. If you realize you're in the curve, that doesn't pop you out after you've gone through.
As long as you don't find something that you see that you try to go back. Like
Okay.
sometimes you'll go, oh, there was a cool, like sometimes I get a visual on a piece of technology and I'll be like, damn it, I was half asleep when I saw that. Let's go back. Well, it's too late. You can't do that.
You can't direct it. That's really cool. Okay, so now I want to find these teachings. Are they still out there?
Yeah, it's a website. It's called Atlantis.to. It's not managed much, but the book, Children of the Law of One, Lost Teachings of Atlantis, is also on Amazon. You can get some free chapters through the website, so you can kind of see what it's kind of about. And then they have like, frankincense and myrrh and basic different stuff that you can get, and different audio that you can listen to that kind of relaxes you and stuff, and it's kind of Tibetan gong music and stuff that John Peniel made.
Oh, that's really well, man. There is just so much here, and I can feel myself starting to fade. This
Yeah.
is so much fun. You
Yeah,
just
it's a lot of fun.
you're just full of such great information, and it's funny. So I want to. Can people reach out to you? I guess I can. They can reach out to me, and I can pass along, or I can pass the messages.
Yeah, you can reach out to me.
Okay.
Yeah, you can pass them to me. I'm also Cole111 at yahoo.com, so you can reach me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Yahoo. At least it's not AOL.com.
Right.
My parents still have AOL. That's so funny. Wonderful. So I will post that, and thank you for all of. I mean, there's just, I think I may break it up so that people, I may put it all out and then break it up, because there's just so much fun stuff here. So as things develop and the puzzle keeps forming, you'll have to come back and share.
Sounds good.
That sounds wonderful. Well, thank you, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.